So we're here for another 7 questions interview. Today we have the wonderful Mark Villareal with us. We can't wait to get started. So Mark, why don't you introduce yourself?
Well, Jeremy, thanks for having me. I'm Mark Villareal and working with TrainUp and, bringing all these workshops and trainings to you.
Absolutely. Well, Mark, what inspires you most right now?
That's an easy question because I answer it all the time. I tell people what drives me. You can see my gray hair, so I'm a baby boomer, and I have a hunger to learn all the time. I think hopefully that keeps my mind young. So I'm constantly reading, learning from others. And with that ties in with my passion that what drives with what I do is I love to see people develop. When your light bulb goes off, there's nothing that excites me more.
That's great. It's great. We appreciate that. And I mean, on that note, what makes you an expert in your subject area? You got all these years of experience, you've done so many amazing things, but what makes you an expert?
Well, I mean, I think you said a little bit. Yeah, I tell people, look, I spent 35 years in corporate America, 21 years at the C-level, which means I reported to the CEO or the president of the businesses that I was a part of. And that really drove my passion that I always felt it was our responsibility to have development for all our employees. I would even say, hold me accountable for your success. And so that was always important to me. But also early in my career, I was what was called a turnaround specialist. It's nothing you go to college for. It's just noted that you have the ability to go in struggling businesses, dissect them, and put a plan together that everyone buys in and help turn it around. So I always tell people, look, you can utilize people that memorize how to train a program, but I bring the real world experience. So instead of just teaching theory, I could say that works good in theory, but let me tell you what happens in practice and bring you real world stories that happen.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, and that's exactly what these live episodes are all about, is how do we tie in that head knowledge to the actual experience and engage in activities to help people really, really grasp those. I love that. Yeah. So what book or podcast are you learning from these days?
That's a funny question because I read new books all the time and I reread old books. Once a year, I reread like 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, 5 Dysfunctions of a Team, The Speed of Trust, and even The 1 Minute Manager, where I first read when I was 20 years old. There's a great new book called Never Split the Difference by Christopher Voss. And the Chris Voss podcast is a great podcast to get great insights from. So it's one of those always reading new, but always refreshing on the old as well.
I love that. That's great advice, just to not forget to kind of look back. One of the things we love about TrainUp Live is that people get the chance to go back and watch the recording or revisit that learning, because that is part of the iterative process of how we learn and grow best.
Absolutely. It gives you that aha moment. Okay, I remember what was said, or I remember what was read, just the same as going back. And it's like, now that I've experienced it, let me go back and it makes more sense,
What's one thing you think the world could use more of and less of?
Well, I think both my answers would go in tandem. I would say empathy we need more of. And this is why I embrace and teach emotional intelligence with a passion. There's 6 different workforce groups in our society now, and much more diversity. When I came into the workforce, it was all baby boomers, 95% baby boomers. We were all the same. Now there's so much difference in our emotional makeup based upon how we were raised and the different things that we've experienced. And with the diversity, emotional intelligence, and the empathy of understanding each other all the way back to the belief system is important. I would say one thing that we need less of is jumping to conclusions, right? I even tell people I used to do that until I slowed myself down. This is why I love the 7 habits, which really tie into emotional intelligence. To seek first, to understand, and be understood really helped me to slow down, seek first to understand, then be understood. And it really grew my empathy. So they both go in tandem very well.
Yeah, wow. I think we just got a little learning nugget right there for you, Mark.
Well, there you go. I preach that all the time.
Yeah. And just so, because this is how we are here, I'd love to get your definition of emotional intelligence. It's a word that we talk about a lot. We talk about emotional intelligence training. Define that for us.
Well, first of all, there's 5 components. So first, it's the ability to really understand. A lot of us don't really know the breakdown of our own emotional intelligence, right? What are our emotional triggers, positive or negative? If I knew you negative triggers, Jeremy, I can make you have a bad day all day long, right? So knowing ourselves, can we control our emotions, right? So are we self-aware? Can we control our own emotions? And then do we have the ability to motivate ourselves? And then as you get stronger in emotional intelligence, is recognize the emotional triggers of others. And therefore you have the ability to motivate them based upon your empathy skills and your social skills. So those are the 5 components of emotional intelligence that make up your EQ, your emotional quotient.
Wow. Well, I'm going to look forward to the emotional intelligence workshop that you're going to lead down the road too. I'm sure that'll be on the list.
Yeah, absolutely.
So what's the best advice you've ever gotten, and from whom?
Well, Jeremy, that's easy. My second book I wrote, I'm an author of 8 books, is called Leadership Lessons from Mom. I always quote it that she was the best leadership coach who chose to be a housewife. And she just had little things and nuggets that she would tell me all my life. And she used to always tell me, Mark, I don't want you to ever let that little boy inside of you grow out of you. And she would explain it. When you're a little boy, you can always dream big, or girl, but when you're little, you always dream big and you don't think about the roadblocks. You think you can accomplish anything. Somewhere in life will try to tell you differently. But if you keep that little boy inside of you, you'll have the passion to obtain a lot more goals and dreaming big and realizing that you can work through and accomplish them.
Well said. Well said. All right. Well, as we wrap this up, I got 2 more questions for you. I mean, you could present anywhere. Why choose TrainUp Live?
Once again, Jeremy, with my experience, I spent over 20 years in the training business running training organizations. And I have known each other a long time. With that being said, I've known TrainUp since their inception, and I've always admired TrainUp's vision and ability to always look forward to the future. And they bring that with integrity to the client. Some of the organizations I worked for in the past aren't around anymore, even though they were so big. And TrainUp is still here. And I think that is because that integrity of the trusted source that the clients believe. And so it was easy to be a part of TrainUp because it matches my values.
So, last question of the 7 questions is, how can our audience learn more about what you do? There's a button on Mark's presenter page that says book Mark now. So you can do that. But Mark, tell us, what are some of the other things you do and that our audience can use of your services?
Well, obviously I do public speaking. So I work with organizations, do public speaking. I have 8 books on Amazon, with 6 of them are business books and 2 of them are children's books. So I like to break the monotony. I love business coaching. Obviously I work with workshops, but also one-on-one coaching has been very impactful because once again, I like to see those individuals grow. So that's what I do. You can reach me through, TrainUp, and you can see, all those aspects, but also, you go to Amazon and see my books as well.
Well, thank you so much, Mark. It's been a pleasure as always. And we will look forward to all your TrainUp Live episodes. Thanks, everybody.
Looking forward to it. Thank you, Jeremy.